I'm Lucy Parker, and I was 26 when I met the man who would change everything. It happened at a friend's wedding in Brookfield, a quiet town wrapped in soft lights and gentle music. I was standing alone by the flowers when I noticed him across the garden. He wore a blue suit and had the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. When our gazes met, my heart raced in a way I couldn't explain. He walked over with a warm smile and introduced himself as Ethan. We talked for hours that night, sharing dreams and fears like old friends. I felt safe with him, understood in a way I'd never experienced before. The next morning, he called. From that day forward, we were inseparable. We met for coffee, walked by the lake, and spent long nights talking on the phone. Ethan listened to me like no one ever had. He made me feel valued and cherished. Falling in love felt effortless and natural. One evening, as we walked beside the river, he stopped suddenly and took my hand. His voice trembled as he asked me to marry me, telling me I was his home. Through tears of joy, I said yes. Our wedding was small and simple, surrounded by people we loved. I wore a white dress and felt nothing but happiness. I truly believed our future would be filled with endless love. But marriage brought unexpected challenges. Ethan's mother lived nearby and appeared at our door almost daily, without warning. She treated him like a child, constantly giving orders about what to eat, what to wear, when to sleep. She barely acknowledged my presence, and when she did, her words carried a sharp edge. One day she told me with a cold smile that I was lucky because many women had wanted her son. I remained silent, but the words stung deeply. Ethan never defended me. He simply stayed quiet whenever she spoke, making me feel like a stranger in my own home. Ethan began coming home later and later. When I asked where he'd been, he would say he was with his mother. I felt profoundly lonely despite being married. One evening, I gathered the courage to tell him how I felt, explaining that his mother's constant presence was pushing us apart. He sighed dismissively and said I was overthinking things. That night, I cried myself to sleep. Weeks passed, filled with arguments and painful silence. After one particularly harsh fight, I packed my belongings, ready to leave. But the next morning, I woke up feeling sick and weak. Something told me to take a pregnancy test. When I saw the positive result, I sat on the bathroom floor and wept. A tiny life was growing inside me, and suddenly everything felt different. I whispered to myself that this baby was my last hope, and I decided to stay. That evening, I cleaned the house thoroughly and prepared Ethan's favorite meal. I lit candles and waited for him with hopeful anticipation. But when the door opened, it wasn't Ethan who walked in. It was his mother. She looked at the romantic table setting with suspicion and asked what was happening. I took a deep breath and told her I was pregnant. Her response shattered me. She laughed cruelly and shouted that I was lying, claiming the baby couldn't possibly be her son's. Before I could respond, she slapped me hard across the face. The pain was sharp and burning, and I started crying uncontrollably. Just then, Ethan walked through the door. He looked confused and asked what was happening. Through my tears, I told him his mother had hit me. He turned to her and asked if it was true. She admitted it without shame, still insisting I was lying about the pregnancy. But Ethan's response changed everything. He looked at me with eyes full of pain and said clearly that he believed me. He told his mother that I was his wife and this was his child. She screamed at him, saying that if he chose me over her, he was no longer her son. Ethan's voice shook with emotion as he said then he wasn't her son anymore. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Ethan held me tightly and cried, apologizing over and over for everything I'd endured. After that night, our home transformed completely. Ethan became the partner I'd always needed. He listened to me, stood beside me, and never let me face things alone. He came to every doctor's appointment and held my hand through each one. When we heard our baby's heartbeat for the first time, we both cried tears of joy. Months passed peacefully as we prepared for our child together. When I finally gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, Ethan looked at me with overwhelming gratitude and said I had saved our family. One afternoon, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Ethan's mother. Her voice was soft and uncertain as she asked if she could see the baby. I looked at Ethan and he simply said the choice was mine. After a long pause, I agreed. When she arrived, she looked older and worn down. She gazed at our son and tears filled her eyes as she said he looked just like Ethan. Then she turned to me with genuine remorse in her expression and apologized for everything. I nodded quietly, accepting her words. That simple acknowledgement was enough. From that day forward, she called before visiting and spoke with kindness and respect. Our family had been broken, but we built it back stronger than before. I learned that real family isn't built on control or obligation. It's built on love, respect, and the courage to stand together even when everything falls apart. Sometimes life has to break us completely before it can rebuild us into something stronger. I took control of my life, spoke my truth, and set boundaries that protected my family. Through all the pain and struggle, I found my voice and created the loving home I'd always dreamed of.